Hello one, hello all, it's the gothiest ghost of them all, Casper in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Laura Marling, Patterns and Repeat. Repeat. This is the latest album from UK singer-songwriter, guitarist, Laura Marling, who really captured my heart with her immensely and beautiful and touching album, Song for Our Daughter, which was a meditative, gorgeous collection of tracks, with her best writing, best playing, in my opinion. And I feel like this time around she really does deliver once again. And there are some tracks here where we do get some interludes, some instrumentals, and while I do think they are odd fit for the album, I don't think that sours any sweetness this album has. Like, even if I do think they could have been constructed better, had more feeling to them, I still do think they have a place on the record. But when she's singing on here, and her lyrics, that's obviously where she shines. Because once again, we are getting these rustic acoustics, but we're also getting additions of more chamber folk on here, like Child of Mine. That is a supremely moving chamber folk song that, if I recall, was the first single to the album, but also the opener to this. And it does close with an instrumental of one of my favorite songs on here, probably my favorite song on here, Lullaby. But why not just do another song to close out the album out? But I'll take it, I suppose. And upon listening to the singles, it really became apparent that we were getting these elegant and intimate cuts once again. And it would also be a singer-songwriter chamber folk LP once again as well. Especially when I heard the immensely tear-inducing track Nobody's Gonna Love You Like I Can, which is certainly a very touching ballad that's lyrically very strong, while the melodies sound very sorrowful, with some lullaby-like piano keys, beautiful, heartwarming string layers as well, and the vocals here are really naked and bare, but honestly I feel that adds to the track, and I feel the bold and prominent playing really bolsters the feeling of this as well. But it's also evident here how personal she makes these tracks sound, like how upfront the feeling is, and how immensely cutting her lyrics are, which is really the most selling point for me of Laura Marling in general. But we also have to get into the production, but we will get into that. And as far as the album as a whole goes, it's not a conceptual record, but I can't help but feel that this is a sister album to Song for Our Daughter, mostly due to the thematic focuses on personal aspects of her life, of other people's lives, such as motherhood, generational patterns, aging. But I also noticed the topical correlations to the title being Patterns, with the generational tie-ins that she brings to these tracks as well. And she's just letting you in, holding nothing back at all. And there are moments here where you do ask yourself, and you do get the answer looking more into it, that she is speaking from the perspectives of other people, like on the track Caroline. And I think it's obvious that anyone who fancies themselves a fan of chamber folk, it's really no secret to why this album is great. So while this album is pleasant, it's beautiful to listen to, I feel Laura, her playing, her writing is so good. I don't see how this couldn't lure anyone in. But not only that, but while the album is mostly easygoing, it's ear candy, it certainly does provide a sonic dichotomy to its predecessor. And not only its predecessor, but also the songs in the track list. I feel like Laura has certainly brought her influences once again, such as Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen, as she mixes them together with a mix of spoken word, but also melody and harmonies, sung vocals, which pan very nicely, as she may start with a spoken word vocal, or she may start with a melody, and then it pans from one side to another. And I don't know if I'm cooking here, but maybe that does feed into the pattern narrative here. Maybe Patterns and Repeat, maybe. Because she does seem to do that a lot here. But I also know there's other reasons why, in a topical substance sense, which she does mostly notably on the song Your Girl. Also, the guitar lines really stand out the most here, with a fair amount of reverb, but the vocals are pretty stripped back, creating a fantastic contrast. with adding some humor to the mix, in my opinion, with lyrics like, "And so you turned your life around. It's funny how those things all work out somehow for the clown," as she speaks on this toxic, troubled relationship she was once in, and the karma-like ending. And let's just say it's a heavy one that cleverly explains the title. And on the specific track, Caroline, she depicts herself as another individual in a committed relationship, but communicates to a love interest this person last had, like long ago in the past, that features this very entrancing finger-picking, or could be classical. I think it really toes the line here. But they do have this very Latin flavor to them, with very ornate swells of strings, and a bed of some beautiful, lush harmonies. Like, the vocals are just so blissful, which is lyrically clever and tragic as well. And if you've been listening to Laura for about some time now, you pretty much know that's in her wheelhouse. And Patterns is a song in two parts. The first one being a heavenly, sedating cut, as Laura speaks on cycles of life. And there's something about this that's very Julia Holter to me, like how both these tracks are Julia Holter coded, but it's just like they have such like ambient performance piece to them, but it's still beautiful. I mean, obviously Julia Holter's music is beautiful. I mean, they're both chamber folk, so that kind of makes sense, but there's something kind of artsy about these, and topically about raising a family, your family raising a family, passing down lessons, and them going on to continue cycle after cycle. And as beautiful and gorgeous as the song is, there's also something very bold to it. It's not overly sweet. There is a heavy use of bass here, but not something that derails the overall sentimental feel of it. There's also nature samples in here as well, such as birds chirping and just these nature-like sounds that I would assume are used for symbolism, which plays in very nicely. Now, keep in mind this is not a concept record, but I do feel there are reoccurring themes here, like a pattern, as the title goes, with of course reoccurring themes that connect, like the title track, which I feel is connected to Patterns, which maybe is the most eerily gorgeous track I think Laura has ever laid down, and definitely laid down on this album, that features a strummed acoustic guitar, fluttering bright string swells, and some ghostly layered vocals. Lyrically essentially depicting these patterns, but this time vastly different from its predecessor, as this is more in a sense of concluding relationships, starting over. It's not as happy, but it's supposed to be lesson-inducing, I suppose, like learning about hardships, starting over. There's also cycles here where it shows someone speaking on them and caring for that individual, caring about them in the situation at hand, It's very clever and shows these versatile factors of pattern, and also creates this sunrise-sunset dichotomy that is definitely empowering, definitely thoughtful, and definitely uplifting to someone who has gone through these patterns. No One's Gonna Love You Like I Can, as I mentioned before, is a supremely sweet and sentimental ballad that is a chamber folk ode to this person that she has immense love for and care for and loves immensely, who she's known or been involved with for a long time. And Laura's lyrics on this track really bring a lot of heartbreak, but also a lot of promise too. Like confessional lyrics that are very passionate, endearing, like making plans that have consistently fallen through. But Laura on here just shows nothing but immense determination and, again, passion, especially with a line like, "If life is just a dream, I'm gonna make it worth something, worth a damn." And while this track is short, I feel Laura really says a lot, sticks the landing, and gives a vast amount of emotion when it comes to making something incredibly moving and beautiful. Another track that is truly beautiful and moving is Lullaby, that features these serene acoustic strings, her child making these cute, joyous baby noises, with these heavenly backed harmonies, and incredible ascending strings. It's truly an adorable cut. That's honestly a very captivating song, or lullaby if you will, that lyrically devotes her endless love to her child, as she affirms her child is safe in her arms, comforting her child, rocking her child to sleep. And God, this song just makes me cry like a baby, and it's about a baby. But yeah, beautiful, gorgeous track. And you can feel the love and sincerity of a mother's love just pouring out here. That really does a wondrous continuation of the themes of motherhood on this LP. And the incredibly dark song Shadows definitely has Leonard Cohen in the DNA. It's very dreamy, almost a Spanish style of playing, with the guitar, heavenly arranged strings and vocals. It's a theatrical piece for sure. I just think in comparison to the other tracks in this lane, like other Heartbreakers, it's just not as powerful and ends in a very uneventful way. But yeah, aside from the cuts I could take or leave, this was excellent. This was beautiful. And I think goes toe-to-toe with Song for Our Daughter. But this time around, sonically, I think she's gotten a little more adventurous here. She's brought more layers in a very ornate, synchronized way that's very well sequenced, that I feel contrast her dry vocals. Very nicely, and honestly, I feel more was brought to these tracks in terms of effects, in terms of mixing, but not to a point where it dampens the authenticity. This thing is not overproduced by a long shot, but it did get a tad more experimental than its predecessor in a good way. Not to mention how compelling and clever these stories are, with a vast amount of emotional tangibility, cleverly written, and also how cleverly arranged these themes were in correlation to patterns. But yeah, I enjoyed this album. It's beautiful, it's warm, and fills my heart with immense love. Like, so much love, like 100% love. So much love. You sure about that, buddy? I mean, for people who I actually care about. But anyway, great album. Love this album. Feeling a 4.5 out of 5 on this album. If you've given this a listen, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. I am Caspa. I am your plug. Hit me with a sub. Show me love. Hit me with a comment, even if it's nonsense. I am Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Laura Marling, till we meet again.